for the invitation, Jimmy. I love you very much. I don't get to speak on this platform very much. I want to thank all the trusted servants who serve in the International Marathon. I love you guys. So many lives have been touched by your service, man. It's incredible. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Jimmy is from the West Coast. Many times me and Jimmy travel all over the world. We call it International H&I, where we go into different prisons in the UK and other places. And I say, I'm Biggie Smalls and he's Tupac. You know what I mean? So me and Jimmy have been able to carry the message a lot of places. And I'm grateful for my brother, Jimmy. My topic today, right, because he said I got 20 minutes to speak on a topic. I think I want to talk about the spiritual crisis. All right, the spiritual crisis. Now, if you're new, this is more of something that I learned when I was many years clean, but it affects us all. In the Living Clean book, it talks about a spiritual crisis. All right, it says many of the challenges we face have concrete symptoms, but are actually spiritual in nature. So many of the challenges we face are, they have concrete symptoms, but are spiritual in nature. It says it's hard to spot a spiritual crisis. Usually it's disguised as a crisis in our relationships, finances, career, or family. So there's this spiritual crisis that's disguised. And the word disguise is an interesting word. I like to look up words. I like, it says disguise means to change the appearance or of some as to conceal identity or mislead. So there's a deceptive component to this disguise. So I have a spiritual problem, and I was clean many years. So I'm clean. I got 5 years clean. I got a sponsor. I've done step work. I'm struggling spiritually. I got the spiritual void. I'm trying to make more money because I want to be ambitious. I want to get a nicer car because the old car don't run too good. I got natural ambitions that are great. I want to succeed. I want to grow. But some of us are trying to fill a spiritual void with something from the outside. And we don't kind of really see that too much. And the insanity of the second step is to try to fix an inside problem with something from the outside, right? So I'm grateful that I get to, in this process of recovery, I get to what I call address deeper aspects than the major symptom. My primary symptom is drugs. Once I'm clean, I got other symptoms. I got other issues that come up. And so when these other issues come up, they cause unmanageability in my life, right? The first step says that we have outer unmanageability and we have inner unmanageability, right? And so I have this unmanageability in my life, and the inner unmanageability is caused by untrue or unhealthy beliefs. Inner unmanageability is caused by untrue or unhealthy beliefs. You can find this in the first step in the step working guide in the unmanageability section. So I have these untrue or unhealthy beliefs about myself, about life, about love, about what a man is, about spirituality, religion, God, whatever it is. I have these untrue or unhealthy beliefs about whatever. They cause inner unmanageability. And if I don't address them in the steps, they'll cause outer unmanageability. They'll cause relational unmanageability. They'll cause spiritual unmanageability, depending on where the untrue or unhealthy belief is. So as I'm working through the steps, I'm clean. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good sponsor. I want to be a good sponsee. I want to be a good brother, a good son. I have to address some issues, and these issues are in the steps. I was reading the Living Clean in the growing pain section, and it says that many of us address the disease of addiction, but many of our underlying issues go untouched. And I thought that was interesting, how we address the disease of addiction, but many of our underlying issues go untouched. And so in this process of recovery, I've hit a lot of bottoms clean. I hit a bottom with a relationship. I hit a bottom with credit cards. I hit a bottom with service. You know that you could do too much service, and you can use service as a drug to escape your own life. You can use good things, and they can end up being bad things. Somebody said, even if you could drown if you drink too much water, even too much water is no good, right? So too much of anything, can lead to unmanageability. So anyway, through the step process, I've addressed, emotional pain, trauma, spiritual, abuse, secrets, resentments through the steps. And I found myself still in the 6th and 7th step after addressing emotional issues, after addressing, one of my favorite speakers, his name is Ron H. He refers it to the original pain. The Living Clean says we got to go back to the scene of the crime and take a look at, where this stuff began, where the hurt began, and where the life. So after I've done all this work, I'm clean 10 years now, 15 years. I've done so much step work. I've been through the steps several times. This particular portion of literature talks about a spiritual crisis, and that is disguised many times as a financial problem, as a problem in my career, as a problem in my family, as a relationship problem. But it says it real clearly. It's a spiritual crisis, but it's hard to spot it because it's disguised. And so I've been clean X amount of time. I've been in recovery X amount of time. I've exposed myself to people who have more recovery than me, and they help me understand that, Raymond, you have to address the spiritual aspect. The solution is spiritual in nature. Whatever that looks like, because it's individual and personal. But to me, it looks like connection to a higher power, and it looks like healthy spirituality. The literature says that when our spiritual needs are met, whatever that means, when our spiritual needs are met, our living problems are reduced to a point of comfort. That's interesting stuff in the 11th step. It says that our spiritual condition is the basis, the foundation for a successful recovery that offers unlimited growth, not just abstinence. I can get free from self-loathing. I can get free from resentments that are 30 years old. I can get free from my prejudices against religion. I can get free from my resentments with God. I can get free from my issues with my mother. That's unlimited growth, but my spiritual condition is the basis for that. And so it goes back to the spiritual crisis. Where is Raymond at spiritually? Even in the 11th step, it says one of the first evidences or first fruits of meditation is emotional balance. Do I have emotional balance, or am I still emotionally volatile? Am I still let me close this door real quick. I'm sorry. Am I still having emotional outbursts? Am I still overreacting? Am I gaslighting in my relationships? I'm great for making people think they're crazy over my insanity. That's why I'm an expert at making you think you're the problem, and really I'm the problem. Am I still doing that? Am I still an emotional vampire? Am I still? So I had to ask myself some tough questions, as it pertains to, what people would categorize as mature recovery. And I lacked what they said was mature recovery because I lacked a spiritual connection. And my sponsor actually told me, he offended me. He says that in NA, like in the basic text and it works how and why in the literature, they gives us literature that tells us what we're supposed to be experiencing as a result of the steps. One of them, obviously, is an awakening of the spirit. And he said, you're working these steps, but it's like a homework assignment to you. You're working these steps and you're looking up words, but you're not. There's a divorce between your head and your heart. He said, what you could share real good, but the video don't match the audio. So what good is it to make believe you're in recovery if you're suffering in silence? And so I had to go through this process, and I think that everybody got to go through their own individual and personal journey. I think hitting bottom clean is very important. I think hitting several bottoms clean is very important. I think I got to come to the end of myself in certain areas. The first step says simply, when we are beaten, we become willing. And so I had to get beaten up in some areas, so I become willing. I wouldn't listen if my level of pain wasn't at a certain place. Like I listen real good when I'm in a lot of pain. You know what I mean? But when I'm doing good, when I'm feeling myself, I got a new car, I got a new gold chain, I got a new girlfriend, I don't got to listen so much. You know what I mean? And so as I come in for landing, this spiritual crisis that many people face in recovery, it goes on to say we think it's mental health when it's really spiritual health. We think it's a deep trauma from the past, which is a spiritual condition, addresses these deep traumas in step 4 and 5. And many people say, oh, outside issue. No, NA talks about abuse and trauma. All right. If you've been raped, if you've been molested, if you've been called dumb or whatever, my pain is the worst pain because I'm the one who had to feel it. Your story is the worst story because you're the one who had to live through it. it's not about comparing here levels of abuse. It's about I have some healing to do. And if you look in the first step, the working guide, it says actually in the first step, the healing begins here in the first step. And so I was able to heal somewhat emotionally. I was able to, I heal physically, do push-ups, go to the gym. But spiritually was my last place of where I practiced the program at. And I had to develop a relationship with a higher power that works for me, not my sponsor's higher power, not the God Squad, not this crew. I needed to find a relationship with a higher power that worked for me. The second step said a power that can heal my wounds. Because many times people walk around and they got these wounds from the past and they're bleeding all over everybody in their present. And many times I would treat my girlfriend, right, a certain way because I had issues with my mother and I wasn't addressing them. And the spiritual healing that takes place that breaks us free from the triangle of self-obsession is real. We do recover. We really do recover. We do heal. We do, experience a restoration to sanity. We do experience this, what the literature says, this surgery of the soul. We do experience this personality change. We do recover. The steps do work. And I'll go as far as this, right? I go outside to different things. NA has opened a lot of doors for me. But I've never had a problem. Sexual identity issues, abuse, trauma, all types of spiritual abuse. I've never had a problem that I couldn't process through the 12 steps and find help wherever I needed it. I've never had a problem that I couldn't bring to the 12-step process. And I've had deep problems. If you ever heard me share my whole story, I've had my issues got issues, right? And so I've come from deep trauma, arrested clean. I had 2 girls pregnant in the same meeting. I have a crazy story. You know what I'm saying? I mean, crazy story. And that's not the worst of it. So don't judge. You might have to call me one day because anyway. So I went through this process. I didn't use no matter what. Continued to show up at meetings, continued to work steps. And eventually I connected with a higher power. I come from hating God, loathing God. I hated God and I hated anyone who believed God in NA. All right. So that's where I was violently anti-religious. You know what I mean? So I needed my soul to experience healing. And that was only going to happen if I addressed my spiritual crisis. And I don't know when my time is up, Jimmy, let me know. But in the second step, it challenged me in the step working guide. It says, it says this, we have to identify and overcome any barriers that keep us from criminal. I can identify, right? I was abused as a child. I have no father. My mother, terrible issues with my mother. My best friend got killed at 7 by a drunk driver. I have a book of, I can identify the barriers. I didn't know how to overcome the barriers. If there's a good God, if there's a loving God, like you guys say in NA, why didn't he care about my home? I got 10 minutes. Thank you, Jimmy. Why didn't he care about my home? If there's a loving God, where was he when this terrible thing happened to me when I was 8 years old? If there's a caring God, why would he allow 2 crazy people to conceive a child and allow me to come into this misery? I can identify a lot of pain, a lot of issues, but I couldn't overcome it. And the overcoming came by talking to like Jimmy Jam, talking to Richie C, talking to Jimmy T, talking to Sean G, talking to Aaron C, talking to other men and being honest. Say, listen, I don't want to, I feel like I'm stuck in self-pity, but man, I should feel sorry for what I went through. That little boy, he didn't deserve that. He was 8 years old. He was like, so I was like dealing with self-pity, dealing with pain and trauma. The disease makes you think it's your fault. It's my fault. Dealing with all this stuff. And so I'm so grateful that there's men in Narcotics Anonymous that have done the work that are more mature than me, that can help me in my process. I'm so grateful when it says, how can Narcotics Anonymous help? It says, we begin by asking for help. Nobody can read my mind. Nobody knows what I'm going through. In fact, many times when I dressed the best, many times in the past, I was feeling the worst. I remember I bought a new outfit. And I bought contact lenses. I bought green eyes. Because I bought green eyes and I had this nice new outfit and I bought a nice gold chain and and I went to the meeting and you know what my sponsor said? terrible. He said, you look like you're ready to use. I said, what are you talking about? I look fly. I'm looking good like a recovering addict should. He says, you look like, and then he said something else. I don't curse, but he basically said that, how can I say this? He said that I can't even say, but he said, like, you're dressed up, but there's death inside of you. He said, you're dressed up the outside, but there's death inside of you. He said, you can't hide the pain. You can't hide. You got to recover here. It's from the inside out, not the outside in, he told me. And so anyway, I've been able to do a lot of work, and I learned that I'm never going to change something I'm not willing to confront. I'm a writer. I write about steps. Now my last 5 minutes, I've been this month, the last day of this month, I'll be celebrating 30 years clean. 30. I got clean when I was 17 years old. I was on like 9 different medicines, had different issues. I had a lot of issues with me. I was 17. I was really, really lost. Today I'm 47. I'm married 23 years. I traveled all over the world. I got great friends. I got, people love me. I've been through, I think before this, they talked about grief. I buried my 19-year-old son of a drug overdose who was born and grew up in Narcotics Anonymous. I buried him. That was very painful. Last year, January, my 17-year-old stepson died in a car accident. I've been through some things. I've been through some very heavy things. And I've learned how to grieve. I've learned how to take my family through the grieving process, mourning. I've been able to become a man, like a gentleman, a young, productive man. In Narcotics Anonymous, my past, this is the truth for many of us. We are products of our past, but we're not prisoners of our past. Not if you're in Narcotics Anonymous. Whatever happened can be addressed. We can process it through the steps. We can pray through. We can get help. We can get somebody who's been. I'm not a prisoner of my past. I was a product of my past, but I wasn't a prisoner of it. And NA opened the doors and set me free from my past. And now I'm not a statistic. I'm clean. I'm a productive member of society. I got a higher power I just don't say I got higher power. The evidence, the 12 steps says the evidence that is demonstrated by change. I stopped smoking cigarettes. That's, and if you smoke, it's okay. I stopped smoking cigarettes. I stopped using profanity. I don't watch certain things on TV no more that are not healthy. I stopped listening to stupid music that was feeding my disease. Can you imagine? You're clean 25 and you listen to music. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to stab you. I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to rob. That's not recovery. I'm listening to all this gangster rap where Jimmy's from, those crazy people in California. I said, I got to stop listening to this stuff. This stuff is feeding my disease. It's not feeding my recovery, and I learned to listen to music and, I learned to be careful what I allow to enter into my space, And so I've addressed this spiritual crisis, but it's ongoing, right? The 10th step says that nothing we have is permanent. That we got to continue to make meetings, continue to be available, continue. If you don't give it away, you can't keep it. You got to make sure you're doing selfless service. You got to, I'm not such a big shot that I'm too good to make NA meetings or that I found God and leave on a religious zeal. That's so sad when that happens. You know what I mean? You can find a higher power and stay in NA and stay speaking our language and stay abiding our traditions and go spiritually, go do whatever you got to do, but don't forget where it all began. Jimmy Jam says, don't forget who invited you to the dance, who took you to the dance. You know what I mean? NA took me to the dance, so I don't want to go on a religious zeal, on a social zeal, on an educational zeal, I want to stay firmly planted in Narcotics Anonymous. And check it out, I'm a good addict. I want more. I want more peace. I want more joy. I want more steps. I want more, there's more. No matter where you're at in your process in Narcotics Anonymous, there's more. And if you're a good addict, that sounds good. I want more. And NA offers more. There's no ceiling in Narcotics Anonymous if you stay humble, open-minded, and willing, and the whole thing. So, Jimmy, I'm sure my time is up. I love you. You're my brother. Thank you for inviting me. Jackie, it's good to see. I see a lot of people. I love you guys. Thank you for all your service. And congratulations on 1 year. You guys are celebrating 1 year next month. Congratulations. I love you. God bless you. Raymond, Brooklyn, New York.
Thank you, Raymond. Come on, man.